Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July. Here it is, the 5th of July. I can't believe we're already halfway through the year. How about you guys? If you're just tuning in, this is Julie Hamilton with Life Builders. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we try to bring you simple tips to build a strong, healthy life on at 8:30 a.m. Good morning, Stacy. I love your hearts. Thank you for sending them to me. Good to see you. And I hope you guys are doing well today. If you're new with this, this is not my regular voice. I'm still getting back to my regular voice, so just bear with me. I'm still working on it, still taking those antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, today we are going to be talking about what happens when you actually are winning, but you still feel like you're losing. How many times do we do that in our life? We keep this amazing scorecard in our heads of how we're doing, and we compare ourselves to this scorecard. And a lot of times the scorecard is impossible to meet, and we expect ourselves to live up to this. Excuse me. So I wanted to tell you a story this morning. This is my own personal story. So we all have our goals and we all have things that are important to us. And I have friends that read 50-something books a year, and I have friends that don't read at all. And for me, one of my goals a couple of years ago was that I realized that I'm always telling my girls to read, but they never saw me reading. So it was about 2 years ago. So I started learning to read again and trying to pick that up. Well, I made a goal to read one book a month, at least one book a month. And this book right here that I just read, Awaken the Giant Within, it took me 2 months to read it. And, you know, I was feeling like, man, but this book is like 500 pages and it's really, really dense. But I started it in May, ended it in June. Finally, at the end of June, I finally finished it. But I was feeling so bummed out about it. Like, man, it took me 2 months to read that thing. Not to mention we had graduations and birthdays and anniversaries and Father's Day and all this kind of stuff. Good morning, Heidi. Great to see you. And so anyway, I was feeling down on myself about this book. And then I realized, I was like, you know what, Julie? That's a 500-page book. You can feel okay about that. You know, you can feel good about that. And then I realized, you know what? I've read 3 books this year that are over 500 pages. I read a 500, a 700, and a 1,000-page book this year. And then I was like, oh man, that's pretty good. I can feel great about that and meeting my goals. And then I was like, I wonder how many other books I've read. So I actually sat down and counted it, and I've read 7 books. And I was counting my scorecard for myself on the fact that I didn't read this book in a month, right? But I've read 7 books for the year. So, and some of them were 1,000 pages and 700 pages. So why would I feel like a loser or feel like I'm losing my battle to accomplish my goal when actually I'm ahead of the game? And that's what happens sometimes, is that we see ourselves compared to this scorecard that we're keeping in our heads that is not fair. It's an unfair scorecard. I held myself up to the standard that no matter how long the book is, no matter what's going on in my life, I'm going to finish it in 1 month. And that's not a fair standard to set for myself. And I needed to realize that. But that's what we do. And I want to encourage you this morning to think about what it is. We need to sit down and define what it is that makes me, when I know I'm successful. We have a certain criteria. You have a certain criteria for when you know you're happy. You have a certain criteria for when you know you're loved. You have a certain criteria for when you know you're successful. And we need to talk about that, because sometimes that criteria is impossible to meet, or it depends on somebody else doing something, and we hold ourselves to this criteria. For example, if you sat down and you asked yourself, what does it take for me to feel successful? For some of you, you know, for you to feel successful, like when you're a newborn, when you have a newborn, like you're like, if I get in the shower once a week, I feel successful, okay? But you know, some of us, when we wake up, and some of you have these high standards. So it's like, if I work out an hour a day, and I work for at least an hour a day on this project, and then I keep my diet perfectly clean, and my kids do everything I say, and at the end of the day, that I never yell at them, and they accept everything I say with smiles, and they never talk back, then I'll be successful. Oh, and I made $100,000 this year. Then I'll be successful. Well, how many ways did you just give yourself you gave yourself so many more ways to fail than you did give yourself the ways to be successful. And so often we do that. I'll only be truly happy when I weigh 115 pounds, but I can bench press 400 and I keep my perfect diet for 30 days. And, you know, then we'll know. Oh, I'll only be happy when my husband or my spouse does this or that and they truly love me in the way that I want to be loved or whatever. And we set ourselves up for failure. So like for me, I'm only a success if I'm reading a book a month and then I take 2 months to read a book. Am I a failure? No. But setting myself up against that standard made me feel like a failure. And so sometimes we have to take, you know how you go to book a flight on the site and then you have that little slider that you can slide that says what window of time you want to go in or out, and you're changing the parameters? Sometimes we just need to change the parameters on what defines success for us and what defines health and happiness and wholeness and what defines being loved for us. We just need to take that slider and move it over. So instead of a successful day being all those things that I can't control, for instance, I can't control whether my kids are going to talk back to me. I can't control what my husband does. I can't control if we have an economic downturn and I don't make $100,000 a year or whatever it is. I can't control if everybody likes me. So if my definition of knowing that I'm loved is nobody's mad at me, that's impossible. You are not going to do that because it rests on everybody else. And that is it's disempowering. So when we create, we need to slide the slider to create the parameters that are empowering parameters for us. So when I go and my definition of success is, I'm going to smile at somebody today. I'm going to make a difference in somebody's life. And if I do something that makes my body or my mind stronger today, I will be successful. Right? I change the parameters to those 3 things. Guess what? Those are all in my control. I can smile at somebody and know that this is my definition of success for me today. I can read a book. I can watch an educational TV show. I can, go to the gym. And that parameter is so much better. That scorecard is so much more fair than the scorecard that you're keeping when you said, I have to diet perfectly, I have to exercise an hour a day, my kids are never going to yell at me and they're never going to sass back and I'm never going to yell at them and my husband's going to love me perfectly, right? Those are all bad parameters for success. So I just encourage you this morning, think about what your parameters are for happiness. What are your parameters for success? What are your parameters for feeling loved? I'll feel loved if nobody ever rejects me. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. You are going to be rejected and you're not going to feel loved because of that. So, I'm going to feel loved because I'm going to wake up every day and know that I am loved beyond measure. Right? And I'm going to realize that not everybody on earth is going to treat me like that, but I'm loved in a love that's so much deeper than anybody could ever understand, right? So change your parameters for what defines happiness, success, feeling loved, all those things that you want to feel. Think about intentionally setting the parameters in ways that are empowering for you so that you can actually keep a fair scorecard instead of an unfair scorecard. Well, I hope that helps somebody out there today. I've been thinking a lot about it, and it's really affected me, so I hope that it affects you a lot, and I hope that you have some ideas on how you can change your parameters to be more empowering and less disempowering for you. And I'd love to hear your ideas in the comments, so leave me your thoughts. I want to hear them. I hope you guys have an awesome week, and may your minds be fierce, and your hearts very strong, and your spirits very, very kind today. I love you all. Bye.